Hello. Last time we talked about client server technology. Okay, this lecture is something to do with how client server technology works. Last time we saw about servers. So first we think about servers. So last time we saw servers ultimate, and then we saw a particular side of servers like Minecraft and other kinds of servers. And we explained about certain things about what are the modules which go under the servers and other things. Now today we are going to take a specific server type, okay, and then analyze what is it, okay. Let's say this is Wi-Fi FTP server. Okay, let's see some other FTP server. Okay. Okay, now this says about Wi-Fi's FTP server. Okay, what is this FTP server? Okay, uh, say you want to copy a file from one directory to another directory. If you have your local memory, then you copy it directly. So that was possible when you have systems, okay, systems which have memory, and you just take a copy of it. You say copy this to this directory, copy that to that directory. So it was kind of file system. Okay, files were actually needed. What do files have? Files have some kind of data storage, whether it is media file, or it is a cache file, or it is a executable file, or it can be anything. Okay, any kind of file is a file. Okay, file is mostly offices use files. Okay, now when you make a copy of a particular word document or something like that, then you are making a copy. Now the copy is within the system. That is the first basic thing you have to understand. That particular copy, what you are making, is within the system. You cannot copy it somewhere else. You can copy it to a local memory, you can copy it to a remote memory, but to your disk and other things. But previously people used to carry that file from one place to another place. They used to copy it onto a disk and then take out the disk, then go to some place like Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta and things like that, and then put it there. Then they copied it back onto the business unit or something like that. So this was a difficult process. This was extremely difficult process, because why you have to copy all the files and then put it somewhere else, put it on the disk, then carry it over, then go to that place, then transfer the files and check whether they are working okay and things like that. So now, to avoid all these things, right now they have what is called a network. So network is a kind of thing like what do you say, like wires and cables and other things. Okay, through which electrical signals are sent to another place, and then files are stored right there. Okay, files are transferred over these electrical signals are called file transfer. Okay, now Wi-Fi is a kind of service. Okay, it's a kind of wireless fidelity. Okay, it's called wireless network fidelity. So mostly Wi-Fi means wireless. Okay, so that is the basic thing you have to understand. So if you are going to install a server for that particular Wi-Fi server. Okay, let's install and see what happens. I haven't used it earlier, but let's see what is this Wi-Fi FTP server. Okay. Now it's installing. Okay, it's called the Wi-Fi FTP server. It is installed the thing. Now I am opening the thing. Okay. Okay. Now I press open and it's open. Okay. Now I says start. It says. Okay. Now Wi-Fi status, IP address, network, everything is disabled. It says. Now if you want to go, you can start things. Okay. Now we want to see the settings first. What are the settings? Because FTP server has a particular port number. Port number is, there are two things when you want to do a transfer of, if you want to do any kind of work. First is IP address. IP address is usually associated with particular equipment or a particular port, okay, for a particular kind of device or a server or a cluster or a client or something like that. So IP address is the basic thing of transfer. Now port is the particular port you are going to use for that particular service. So it's the service port. Okay, FTP means it's a service port number and it is the FTP service port number. So now if you check at the FTP service number, it is 2221. Okay, now that is the service port number that's used by the FTP service. If you want, what kind of access you want to go. So that access is like if you want to give a username and password so that people can log in with the username and password and then use it, then it is called access based. If it is just anonymous access, then you can just give it anonymous and then username and a password. Okay, user ID for FTP server access. Okay, user ID. Now user ID you can give your own user ID. If you don't want to give your own user ID, you can just anonymous. That's what you do. Okay, here he has given user ID as Android. Okay, now let's check the password. Okay, password is password is also Android. Okay, that is what you have to check. Okay, uses FTPS. Now it uses an FTPS server. Okay, now what is the mode of transfer of the file? This is secure socket layer. Okay, why they are giving safety layer? So that people don't take out files right in the middle of transfer. Okay, that's right. FTP means file transfer protocol. You need to follow a particular protocol to transfer a file from one place to another place. That is why it is called file transfer protocol. Now file transfer protocol is agreed. Now who is going to be the server and who is going to be the transferer? Okay, who is going to use this file and who is not going to use that file? That is called. So now this is the root folder. Now this is the root folder under which your FTP your files will be there. This is the root folder under which your files will be there. So it is given as internal memory. You can give it / photos, movies or something like that. So I am giving it as photos. Okay, now so I can transfer all the photo files from there. Okay, root file system. Okay, now read only. Now what is the access you want to give? Access you want to give is like if a person can copy that file or he can just open the file and see and use it. That's all. So that is read only. Now I have not set it as read only. I have just given open file transfer so he can transfer the file. Okay, theme display password. Okay, display password is on home screen. Okay, this is turned on. This is turned on so that you can display the password on the home screen. Okay, that is why it is given. Okay, now I am going to give Wi-Fi starter IP address network. Okay, now I start. Okay, now Wi-Fi not connected it says. Okay, now we have to give connection to the Wi-Fi. Okay, how to give the connection to the Wi-Fi server? Okay, now you have to turn on the Wi-Fi. Okay, now for that you just turn on the Wi-Fi. Okay, now I turned on the Wi-Fi. Now I say start. Wi-Fi not connected. Okay, so there's no Wi-Fi connected on this network. So you have to see where you can go and get this connection. So this is server which started on the Wi-Fi network. Okay, now you have to go to the settings. Okay, go back. Okay, now what is the thing? IP address 192.168.225 and 242. This is the that is the network that is enabled. Okay, now you want to say start. It is going to start. Okay, allow Wi-Fi FTP access your photos. Allow. Okay, now it is started the server. Okay, now what is the address it is given? It is enabled. Okay, now it is available on IP address this one, and then it says the network is unknown. So SSID unknown. Okay, that's all. Now to access that thing, it gives you the URL name now. What is the URL? You have to access through a browser. If you want access through a browser or a FTP server, then you have to access through this. For a URL, you can have to access through it. Now user ID is Android. That's the default they have given. Password is also Android. That's the default they have given. Anonymous access enabled. What is anonymous access? People without any username or password and anybody can access the kind of thing. That is why it is called anonymous access. Root folder. What is the folder that under which your files will be there? That is called the photos file. Okay. Now from the photos file from your local iPhone, you can transfer to a remote iPhone. remote iPhone, but who is going to access? I am going to be the server, which means that I am giving access to the photos within that file system to copy that file, or you can write the file, read the file, and copy the file. So there are three access usually for a file system. Okay, one is read, write, and execute. Okay, these are the three things. Or copy. Read write means you can just copy the file or do anything with that file. Okay, only read only means you can just use only for reading. Or read write and execute means you can use a bin file and you can execute those things. That is why it is giving all the access. That is the root folder, its photos. Okay, now FTP 192. This is the IP address that I have to use. What is that? 192.168.225.242 colon 2221. What is that colon 221? 2221 is the port number for this FTP server. Now I have started the server and the server is running, so I am happy. Okay. Now what we are going to do is we have to go access this server. How we are going to go access this server? Okay, so I just go out. Okay, now I go to Play Store and I use any FTP server, file transfer. Okay, Wi-Fi file transfer. This is the client. Okay, now this is the Wi-Fi client. Maybe this is the client for that particular thing. Okay, now I can connect through this, or I can directly access the web and then use that particular address, IP address, and then access it. Okay, let's see what is the client or a server. Let's see. Okay, Wi-Fi file transfer. It says it's a client or a server. We don't know. Let's check what is it. Okay, now I'm going to install the things. Okay, accept. So it's installing. Okay, Wi-Fi file transfer. That is the client. Okay, now you can do a client or you can use through the web itself and access it. Now people have allowed for web access. You don't have particularly go through a client or something like that. Through the web itself you can access some of the things. HTTP protocols allows all these things. Okay, so now it's not Wi-Fi file transfer. Press button to start. It says that this is another server, I think. So I don't know whether it is server or the Wi-Fi file can now access the files on an Android device by typing the following. This is another kind of server. This is the same thing. This is another FTP server also. Okay, so now to access the things, you can use HTTP itself. Okay, you can use HTTP. So you can just say HTTP colon / / 192.168.225 and 242 and 1234. So this is another kind of server. Okay, there you have to use FTP colon / / something like that. Here you can access the server by HTTP colon 192.168.225.242 colon 134. Okay, so there are two methods of access. One is through HTTP, another one is FTP directly protocol. Okay, now this is the thing, it is running. Okay, now what I'm going to do is send link via. So I'm just going to send the link via email. Okay, now I'm going to send it through email, or I'm just going to copy the thing. Okay, now I don't have to go through this. Okay, but let's see how we are going to copy. Okay, copy to. Now I'm copying this thing. Copying to say something like med. Okay, copy. Okay. Okay, I say copy and paste. Okay, now I copied and pasted it right there. Okay, the server is running. One is through HTTP. The other server I started was through what is the other server I started through was something to do with FTP. Okay, these are two things. FTP can be done both through HTTP and FTP server. Here you have to use FTP colon 192.168.225.242.2221 because the port is different here. For FTP port it is 2221. Okay, for a HTTP port we want to see, we can go to the HTTP port and see that is 1234. Okay, so the HTTP port is like this. Okay, you can access through a browser. Okay, that is why it is. Okay, now this is a kind of thing. Okay, now this is help. Okay, connection problem, how to use a Wi-Fi transfer, frequently asked questions and get email support. So if you want to do support or services and things like that, you want to get a support from all these people, then you can just call up the people and ask for this particular support. Okay, access password, start redirect auto start to home network. So this is particularly used for home network. Okay, so that's all. So there are two FTP types. One was that direct FTP colon slash slash. Another one was through HTTP. So HTTP server can be used directly to access that particular site and then do the transfer as though it is transplant. Okay. Now I have to go to the browser and access this. Okay. Now how do I 192.168.242.1? So you can just copy it. Okay. Send link via email or you can do it where do I get it. Okay, now share me kind of things. Okay, below. Okay, now I don't know how to copy this one, so right now I don't have access to that copy kind of thing, so I have to use a browser. Okay, let's go to a browser and then try to 192.168.225. 192.168.225. Okay, now I have a browser. Where is the browser? This is the Chrome browser. Okay, here I write uh, 192. Where is it? 192. Okay, this is 80 is there. 142. Okay, now instead of that I'm just going to edit. Okay, I'll say 192.168 dot 225. Okay, this is the one. Okay, so you can ask a method to access this one. So now I am not typing it properly. Okay, so you have to put the things properly. Okay, the full IP address and other things. So once you have done with that, then you can have access to the particular file. Okay, that is how file system. So I have actually activated two servers. One is the Wi-Fi file transfer using HTTP. So HTTPS is going to be the server for that. Both of them are for file transfer. So you can do a file transfer on this or HTTP using HTTP or a file transfer server on this. Okay. Now let's go into this here. Okay. Now we have started. Okay. Well, first thing is what is the use of FTP? Okay. The client server model is still there. Okay. Now what's the thing? There are so many applications over FTP server. Why there are so many applications over FTP server? Okay, any company that wants to start a business or something, they have to transfer files. Say you have a system in New York, they have to transfer like offices. Like offices have so many files. This record, that record, this record, and they have executable all these things. Any big company, if you use, they will definitely have a FTP server and a client. Client, they can have access through FTP client. They can just type in FTP and / and then access those things. Okay, so any kind of things, any kind of company or any kind of services that most of them run over this FTP server. What is the FTP server? Basically, if you want to transfer files from one system to another system, then you have to use that FTP server. That is why it is used maximum. Okay, companies, they use it FTP server this side and that side, I mean like nothing before. Okay, there are so many applications running over this file system. First thing, because from here to, if you want to transfer a file to Delhi, you don't have to go to Delhi. All you have to do is you can just send it over the network, and then the client is right there, and you can just take access that particular file and then use it. Okay, once you give access to that particular thing, then they have access. Like companies, if they want to transfer the whole office folders, okay, they have this whole thing stored in a computer. and they want to transfer the whole server from one place to another place, then they can just do this FTP server and then transfer all the files to the other side, and then they can copy. Okay, copy all the things. Okay, if they want to do make an edition out there, they can make a change out there and then transfer the file back into. So you can do a clustering or a cloud service, or they are called client clustering. Then they have server clustering. Server clustering, if you run more than 2 or 3 servers and they are linked to each other. Okay, so that is called server clustering. Client clustering is like something like 10 people, they cluster together, form a kind of group and then access a particular service. Okay, so client clustering is almost there anywhere. Okay, like people accessing a particular department, they will have client clustering. So about 50 or 100 people will be accessing a particular file at the same time and making changes to the file. Okay, so that is called a client clustering. Server clustering is what if we have a particular file distributed in 3 different servers, one single file distributed in 3 different servers over the network, and all 3 get updated at the same time when anybody makes changes onto it. So you have 3 servers, they are all linked, and a copy of it is available on all the 3 servers. That is called client server clustering. So you have to know the difference between what is a server clustering and what is a client clustering. So clustering is kind of grouping, so you don't have to know much about. They have classes of grouping also. Okay, something called departmental classes of grouping. Okay, so a single file might be available within a particular department, and a group of people can be using that particular file. And similarly, part of the file can be used by somebody else to read and write part of the file. That is called a classification. Okay, classification is two files. When you have file classifications, those files can be written by different classes like monetary department, bank department, or housing department, or loan department, and things like that. So a single file, part of the file can be used for different purposes. Now, if you think of database, that's a huge area under which FTP is used, but there they have structured language and kind of access and other things, so you don't have to worry about those things. Now, a basic thing, what is an FTP server, how to start an FTP server, what is the IP address you give for a server, and how to access the thing using a browser or a FTP an IP address and a port number. That's all. This is for local things. Now, for remote things also you can use. Local means if you have 2 cell phones, within that one cell phone to another phone, so if they are connected with Wi-Fi network, or through one place to another place nearby, where you are within the same network, then you can access the thing. Like home network is within the same network, so you can access. So this Wi-Fi FTP server is within the Wi-Fi range. Okay, so you can have another Wi-Fi network connected through, and if you have another cell phone, then you say that you start with the same server and start another server. From one server you have file system, another server you have file system. From that client you can access this particular IP address if they are in the same Wi-Fi network. Then only you can access this. If they are not in the same Wi-Fi network, then you cannot access. Okay, they have to be in the same server. So some of them are remote, so they know how to route the things, and then they can access those things. Okay. Now FTP is what are the applications that can run over these things? One is business app. Okay, they can run over this FTP server app. Then huge digital library system, huge thing. Okay, they haven't developed any digital libraries at all, and this digital libraries completely rely on this FTP server. Okay, so mostly it is a kind of FTP server is used, and an overlaying framework is embedded. Okay, that is called a digital library. So this digital library, what it does is it archives all the books. So you have books like written by Ren and Martin, or some other people like Agatha Christie, or Charles Darwin. Those kind of books are available, and these things have to be put in proper order. So that is called a digital library. A digital library is where you have the books stored in an electronic form, whether PDF or something, and then arranged sequentially, and some of the things are available like author name and other things. So that digital library uses FTP server heavily. Okay, so that you have to understand. That is one of the basic applications of FTP. Okay, there are other applications, so many other applications which we don't know, and they have a huge hope for that. So you don't have to worry about this right now. So for now, we stay from here and we know how much scope for a single system or a service like FTP, file transfer. That is a basic thing through which a client server can access a huge application, can run over it. There are so many applications that run over an FTP server. Okay, there are huge hopes also, because some of the robots, they want to do a complete file transfer before they can start working. So that is called a, they also use FTP as a basic thing. Now this is enough for today. Later we'll see some other things.